Oh, this is Greg Ellis with Galactic Gregs. I get these questions. If we developed UFO type technology, breakthrough physics, anti-gravity, electrogravity type technology, zero point energy technology, whatever you want to call this sphere of alternate physics. If we have developed this technology, why is it that we don't already have bases on Mars, on the moon, Pluto, other stars? Why don't we have uh, why don't we have any competition militarily? And maybe the most succinct question is, why is it that Elon Musk doesn't drive a UFO? His own little Tesla UFO. Guys, that is maybe the crux of it, but we're going to get all into this. We're going to talk about several things that may be impediments to us having this technology, why we may have the technology, well, more like why we may have the technology, but maybe it is being held extremely tight, extremely small, to a very, 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 very select few individuals, and why it may be highly, highly, highly controlled to the nth degree. There seems to be some indicators of that. And we'll talk about ramifications of this technology to include things that's going to boggle your mind. All right, my friends, buckle up. This is going to be a trip here. Why doesn't Elon Musk drive a UFO? Well, gosh, Elon Musk is the richest technocrat in the world. He knows technology. I mean, he's creating brain machine interfaces. He had Neuralink. He has got SpaceX. He's got Tesla. He's got the Boring Company, and he's got right now his finger throughout the U.S. government and all the spending that the U.S. government is doing. So this man should, if he's not already there, he should have his fingers on the technology pretty soon, you would think. Maybe. But maybe this is real tight. I mean, here's what you can look at. Look at this. Every satellite that we communicate with to date has been launched by a rocket. Elon Musk develops rockets. Now, long ago, I coined this Allison's laws of rockets. Rockets go boom. Rockets have always gone boom, and rockets always will go boom. Our job, that's the three laws of rockets, Allison's laws of rockets. Our job is to make them go boom less often, but that rockets will always go boom. It makes you a little shaky about flying on a rocket. Maybe we could come up with something better. And if anybody could do it, and if anyone would have it, ought to be Elon Musk. But yet Elon Musk is developing this large spaceship, starship, as he calls it. And guys, look on this Falcon 1 rocket. It was the first commercial rocket to actually reach orbit. He spent $90 million, which is a bargain, developing that rocket. I don't think that probably includes the flight costs themselves. I think he spent nearly $500 million, $400 million or so much in the SpaceX company to get it started up. So his Falcon 9 rocket, which was a growth upon that, had an additional $390 million spent on it. Now, that's the one that actually launches crew with the Dragon space capsule to the International Space Station, which NASA funded the Dragon. Now, he spent another $500 million to create a heavy lift version of that. It's like three Falcon 9s all put together, first stages at least. So he spent a lot of money in this Falcon rocket family. And then he started out with Starship. Now, Starship has got so far $5 billion spent on it. And now they've up to 7 flight tests with the first stage. And but what, 27 or some odd, I don't know, lost count, actual orbiters, Starship orbiters, although none of them have completed a complete orbit yet, but that's what I'm referring to the upper stage to, just using old space shuttle parlance, since the bird on the space shuttle was called the orbiter. for lack of other terms. They call that Starship, they call the whole thing the Starship, and the bottom stage Starship Heavy. So, there's kind of a syntactic, overlap of language here. But in any event, $5 billion so far, and he claims he's willing to spend a total of 10 to get his system developed. And NASA's willing to invest up to almost $5 billion, $4 billion, well, better than $4 billion into it, because NASA is looking at putting, they want money for a lander and then a repeat lander. So NASA is willing to put $53 million into orbital refueling test, which hasn't been done yet because it hasn't got to orbit. They're looking at $2.9 billion for a lunar-rated Starship. Remember, the Starship was originally designed for Mars. and a lunar version would be different animal. And then they're talking about doing 1.5 billion for a second lunar lander Starship. Just saying, guys. So that's a lot of money going into starships and the rockets, not to mention that the Space Launch System itself to date has probably already had $24 billion spent directly on rocket development and $5.7 billion on upgrades to ground infrastructure and God knows what else. Some people think it's $100 billion. But, so we're talking over $30 billion roughly for developing the Starship and some of the ground infrastructure that supports it. Not Starship, the Space Launch System, which is the Artemis launch vehicle, or the primary NASA selected Artemis crew launch vehicle for the Orion capsule. Now, the Orion is a wholly different, the capsule is a wholly different cost program, and they're having problems with heat shields and blah, 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 blah. So there you go, my friends. The Starship, the SLS rockets on a per unit cost are probably around $4 billion, neglecting all the development costs. So each. So we're spending a lot of money on rockets. Now, other countries are also developing rockets. Every country on, every major power on Earth is developing their own rockets, and a lot of companies, and there's also spending a lot of money. Now, the other countries maybe not spending as much money as NASA, but they're spending more money typically than SpaceX for the development of the rockets. So we have a lot of rocket development going on in the world, and we have had for decades. Like I said, every satellite's been launched on a rocket. Yet, some mighty interesting things happen. A lot of these sightings of orbs are thought to be government. There's that wing-looking thing flying over triangle thing. Some people call the TRB-3. There is a lot of things that occur on military bases and Area 51, which may be just hypersonic research vehicles. But a lot of people think there's some nefarious, interesting, strange technology being developed by our government. There's stuff in hangars. We got the claims of Bob Lazar, and even the guy who done himself in at the Trump Tower in Las Vegas over the New Year's weekend. Mr. Liversberger, he was claiming that he was part of an Army program developing or flying anti-gravitic UAVs, and he claimed that China was launching anti-gravitic UAVs from submarines out of the Atlantic. Now, given that I've already shown in a previous video, if you've not watched it, go back and watch it. The U.S. Army actually had a legitimate anti-gravity tech program that started in 2001 and ran probably at least to 2018 and may still be in progress to this date. And all these years, what have they done? Ning Lee went black and disappeared after she sent out an email to somebody claiming they had an 11 kilowatt electrogravitic beam. 11 kilowatt. That's pretty powerful, guys. And that was decades ago now. So where are they at? What have they developed? Have they come up with something? Why is it black? Why don't we have, or do we have bases on Mars? Well, I would say probably not, because whatever we're doing is not at scale. Look at this. Tim Burchett, a senator from, a congressman from Tennessee, has been trying to dig to the bottom of this technology to see what the government had, and he's been told to shut up. Now, who's got the authority to tell him to shut up, be quiet, quit, stop, quit looking? There's been some attempts at disclosure. They've gone to certain degrees, but they've also hit walls. And there's walls of credibility. There's the ha-ha factor always surrounding around. So there's a lot of stuff thrown out there that's just boulder dash, a lot of junk. And a lot of people want to make claims and, write books and go on a tour speaking and get rich, claiming a lot of fluff stuff. And then again, maybe some of it is government sponsored just to dissuade people and get people to look over there. Look, it's those funny little guys talking about little green men. Nobody should be wearing any green, right? Or in a green room. Anyway, so there's lots of questions about that stuff. Now, why is it that this technology, it may exist? Now, here's another point. Bob Lazar has made his claims. There's other people that claim they've been involved in retrieval programs. If you look at my earliest videos on this channel, my most popular videos with Amy Eskridge, you will see that there's been quite a long history of human development and research into areas of this nature, going back to the 20s. Maybe, and Nikola Tesla talking about it before that. So this isn't exactly new, and humans could come up with this without having to retrieve some other device, even though Bob Lazar says we don't really understand the technology. Well, maybe he's right. There may be some science here we don't understand. But why would we not have use of this at scale? How come you don't have a little box in your house you can flip a switch on and you got free energy? Okay, free energy don't exist, can't be such a thing. Well, that's probably true. But now, from the standpoint of a water wheel, you build a wheel and you put it in a stream and you're getting energy out of it, right? Sure, it's propelled because the stream moves. But, from the standpoint of just the wheel itself, it looks like free energy. So maybe there is a stream or a vibration or something in space that we could tap that would give us powerful energy, powerful systems that would give us transdimensional technologies even. Because a lot of these so-called craft are seen to pop in and out of, like they disappear and reappear. They pop out one place and pop in another, like they're transdimensional. People report things popping in their rooms, right? Some of them might have had one or two many, but then again, can you say that for all of them? Some of these cases are, let's say, interesting at the very least. In any event, guys, so whatever you want to believe, there is that video that Ashton Forbes produced and his claims about the disappearance of MH370, the Malaysian Airlines that went down several years ago. It looks like there's 3 orbs going around that thing, flying a certain pattern, setting up an ionic field around it, and they all go poof instantaneously in the video. There's no debris, none of that. It just goes poof, flash a light, all gone. What is that? Is that credible? If so, what is it? What happened? Whose was it? Was it ours? He thinks it was ours. So maybe we do have programs like this. Maybe they're just very, very, very tiny and not at scale. Now, why would you have a technology like that and keep it so tiny? Well, there's several reasons often suggested, like nobody can have free energy because the big oil companies won't make any money. You hear that all the time. That's an easy one. Or maybe it's power. We're the few. We got the power. And nobody else can have it. It's ours. It's mine. My precious. My precious. Well, maybe. Or maybe there's something more to it. How about this? According to the theories, the quantum field theories of zero-point energy, it is estimated, now this is a theory and an estimate, but it is estimated that there are 10 to the 107th or 117th power. That's 10 with 117. That's like, 10 multiplied times itself 107 times, joules of energy in every little cubic centimeter of free space. Okay, that's just a number, blah, blah. Let me explain to this something. There's only 10 to the 78 to maybe 10 to the 82 atoms in the entire observable universe. Now we're putting it at scale. Think about that. Think about that just for a minute. Let that sink in. There is more power in the joules of free space, just a little bit, than there are atoms in the observable universe, according to the theory. So you wouldn't want to skim off, but just the tiniest fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction, you might have more energy than you could possibly deal with. It's possible. Now, it might be a way to, we don't know supposedly how to cohere this energy or how to tap into it. Theoretically, supposedly. Or maybe we do. But in any event, this energy is stupendous. So to put it to scale, well, let's think about this. So imagine you had the technology that you're transdimensional, basically, as some people think this stuff is, that you could beam something from one spot to another, any object that could release some tiny little fraction of this energy. So you could there might be a big boardroom somewhere, people having a big meeting, maybe a war room or a boardroom meeting, or your adversaries, your competitors are meeting. You can just beam in a little bitty minuscule capsule and go pop. Whole city vaporizes. Whole continent vaporizes. Whole planet vaporizes. Now, you're not talking about that much energy. Oh, yes, I am. More than that, even. This is Star Wars. What makes Star Wars Death Star look like nothing kind of energy. Because let's look at that energy level again to understand what we're talking about. We're talking about if you were to convert this into megatons, if you were to go to megatons with this energy, it would equal to 100. Now, megaton is 1,000 kilotons. Kilotons, 1,000 pounds of TNT. The bombs we dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima were in the range of about 15 kilotons. The strongest bomb ever dropped by man, or was a Russian bomb called the Tsar Bomba, is only half scale. They didn't do the full scale. It was 50 megatons. Their full scale Tsar Bomba was designed to be 100 megatons. The biggest explosion ever by mankind was 50 megatons. So let's put this in perspective. 10 to the 107 joules is 2.39 times 10 to the 91 megatons in a cubic meter of free space. You're talking about 2.39 times 10 to the 89 full scale 100 megaton Tsar bombas. More Tsar bombas than there are atoms in the visible universe. Yeah, actually a lot more Tsar bombas than they are atoms. It's like 1,000 times more. 1,000 times more Tsar bombas than there are visible atoms, or atoms within the visible universe. It's in a little cubic centimeter of vacuum space. And you can say it's nothing. Vacuum space is a bunch of nothing. No, it does have properties. As I mentioned in previous videos, it's got resistivity. It's got epsilon naught and mu naught, which is the permittivity and permeability of free space, the numbers of which govern the speed of light, and many other such things I've talked about many times in the past. So, guys, there's some reality to this. The Kashmir experiment has been done in laboratories, which seems to prove the Kashmir force exists and zero-point energy exists and probably, maybe, possibly exists at these energy levels. But even if it's off enormously, there's still so much energy here possibly that is mind-boggling. So let's recap why you wouldn't want to develop this technology. Again, why it may be controlled. It might be we can't have free energy. Well, there might be a lot of free energy available if you can crack the nut of how to get at it. It might be, it's mine, my precious power. Or it might be, military dominance. We can't afford for the Chinese to have this, so we got to keep it really tight. Now, we know that the Chinese hack everything we got, and they're in all our organizations, our universities. They got agents, some of them are American who are sympathizers. They're everywhere. China has invaded just about everything. They've they're just like a fungus. They're in everything we got. That's why, OpenAI, ChatGPT has been rehashed as DeepSeek, apparently, because somebody was using DeepSeek and asked it who it was, and it said ChatGPT. I just covered that in a video over on my Green Grades channel. So, guys, they are taking technology. They're everywhere. It's really extremely difficult to hide our technology from. So you got to keep it really, really tight. If you got a technology that powerful, you do not want an adversary to have it. Absolutely don't want an adversary to have it. But there is, how do you keep it that tight that long? And the way we're a free, open society, that's tough. Now, China's a closed society. You go to China, you're going to stick out like a diamond in a coal field. There's a dirtier phrase of that I'm kind of avoiding right now. But, you will stick out like a sore thumb. And most of you would. So, it's harder to break in the Chinese society. They're closed. They don't have things open the way we do. So they could have larger scale programs. They could, what we might only dare build one or two of, they could build thousands perhaps and have the same or better levels of secrecy than we're able to maintain. So we might have, a couple something that can take a Malaysian airline out, and maybe we did that as a demonstration. Them look at us, and then maybe they come back with their drones and say, oh yeah, look at us. Possibly. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying you can't rule it out. Now, having said that, there is a bigger reason, bigger concern with the technology of this kind. I did a video on Greengrass called "A Bomb in Every Pot," Nuke in Every Pot, I think, and it was all about technology getting so sophisticated that we could not survive our own technological developments. And I do believe that's where we're heading, unless we change how we treat each other and how we get along. If we live in a world that hatred continues in, we shall not continue to exist as a species. And I call this the forbidden planet tech, or the forbidden planet syndrome. How about that? Let's name it right now. The Forbidden Planet Syndrome, after the 1954 movie, The Forbidden Planet, which was a game-changing breakthrough movie that saw way ahead of many issues, and I think was still maybe one of the most advanced conceptual movies ever made. Why? Because it toyed with the idea of a society developing technology to the point that they eradicated themselves in a single night. In a single night. They gave themselves so much power that that their minds could conjure up and develop anything they wanted. And so when they went to sleep, the ids of the subconscious basically created monsters, and they wiped each other out in a single night. And all that was left when the plant was discovered was the remnants, the centers. The machines were still working, and people had learned how to harness that stuff a little bit, and suddenly it was a very destructive power. And they didn't understand it at first, what they were playing with. So that was a very, very advanced movie. But you know what? Such technologies, maybe not where it comes out of your subconscious, but such technologies for us to eradicate ourselves it could come from many fronts. One of the things I pointed out was biological weapons, because bioweapons are basically the poor man's nuke. Biolabs are all over the world. People were 20 years ago ordering genomes for viruses and over the mail internet and constructing them in home biolabs and garages, basically, almost. So the case is that this kind of technologies could be destructive, but that is nothing. It pales in comparison to something that could give you any slightest, tiniest little slight, tiny fraction of 10 to the 107 joules per cubic centimeter. Especially if you had the technology to move from point A to point B with this kind of power. You could literally destroy the planet, the solar system, Milky Way galaxy, maybe, rip space-time wide open with that kind of energy. If you could really fully cohere it, and make a Death Star look like a child's toy. Star Wars Death Star. So that might be the kind of technology we're dealing with. It may be that some people have come to that realization. They're going, oh, geez, we've got to keep this down. I don't know. A lot of us would like to get to this technology and release it. But what are we playing with? What are we playing with? It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. If this technology can be derived, it will be derived. Now, there is another. So that was one of my darker scenarios. Is the technology is so powerful that it evokes what I call the forbidden planet syndrome. There's a darker reason. Forbidden planet syndrome. We just, as soon as we get it developed, we'll wipe ourselves out instantaneously. Well, I hope not, but at some point we're liable to reach such technological levels, unless, as I said, we come up with some way to overcome our hatreds, our fears of each other. The racism, everything that divides us. We've been divided every way you can imagine in our society. We got to find a way around that, a way to overcome our differences. Lord knows we can love a dog or a cat, and they're nowhere near our equals. So why can't we, and however you want to measure things, or so why can't we come to terms as people? That's another question. But all that aside, there is perhaps a more nefarious, darker answer. I did my videos on this channel where I said, we look up, we don't see Dyson spheres, we don't see any evidence of traffic going back and forth, although there's been some suggestions that there are 9 stars now that may be candidate Dyson spheres. That's just recently come out. So that's worth exploring. But we don't see the grand signatures of civilization that we should see looking up in space. We're not getting those kind of signals and repeat. So wow, signal, we're not getting repeatable signals that you'd expect if there were grand civilizations in space. The Fermi paradox had it where the entire galaxy would be colonized and lickety split by a technological civilization that was relying on rockets. So, Lord, if you've got electrogravitics, you can go anywhere. We talk about that more in the future. But you suddenly, your limitations are far less. I mean, it makes Star Trek and Star Wars look like child's play. You could really spread out fast, go far. And it's now been suggested that liquid water has existed since within 300 million years of the Big Bang. Subscribe to such ideologies. All right. Now, having said all that, I'm going to wrap this up with this final nefarious thing. Even though I said there's no sign, I think whatever other beings or entities that might be out there are actually from here in another dimension. That don't mean they didn't come here long, long ago. Maybe the answer to the Fermi paradox is they've been here all along. Maybe they created us, as in the Anunnaki, the Sumerian tells, the Book of Genesis. They're kind of similar in a lot of ways. A lot of analogies between those two sets of writings. Not saying what is or what is not, just pondering some possibilities here. What if there's, mankind wanted their own determination and was allowed to develop, to whatever point we're coming to here? What if there's a limit? What if there is an evil force out there that's controlling our society? I can go more into that at some point in the future, but I think, in my humble opinion, most of what we're seeing would be equatable to what the phenomenology that's often associated with demons. Some of it just doesn't seem too nice. And I think Steve Greer is full of Boulder Dash and a lot of those other guys. In fact, they may be part of the PSYOP. See, what I think maybe is a lot of the people in the disclosure community themselves, think they've got some contact or some inside scoop, and their ego has been played. Make them think, oh, I'm Mr. Big, smart guy. I'm the big shot. I got the answers. It's all good, and I'm at the top of the parade. Well, they're being deceived, most likely, if this scenario I have in mind is true. And maybe there will be a reveal in the future, but it may not go in our favor. It might be more like how to serve mankind on a platter. May not be the answer we seek. See, it may be that, hey, we get assimilated into the Borg. At least that may be where they want to take us. Doesn't mean you got to give in to it. I think some folks think about the so-called mark, if you know what I'm talking about, Book of Revelations. So where are we heading? What is all this stuff? You need to have your eyes wide open and watch it, because we may be facing what's known as a great deception. And it might be in this sphere that the great deception takes place. It might be related to all this stuff. And it may come out looking, oh yeah, this is the way it is. This is smart. This is good. This answers everything, but maybe it don't. So just be aware. Be prepared for whatever may come. I don't know what the answers are here. I'm not saying it's this or it's that. I'm just saying, this whole thing don't make sense of how things have been kept so tight, unless you think about some of these things I've thrown out here. Maybe there's other potential answers, and maybe I'm totally off base. I hope so. I hope it's something positive, and we get down to it. We can all have free energy and hop in our little Jetson mobiles and all the way to Pluto. That's my dream. But guys, there's a lot. This whole business has been fraught with people having to go black. You don't hear from them anymore, or people pushing daisies, or being discredited. Look at that in that case. Or something happens to them, something serious. So guys, be aware. Anyway, what is it? What's the answers? What do you think? Leave me your comments below. We're going to explore this more in the future. But what do you think? What do you think? Chat below. Let me know what you think. Share this video. And with that, I'm going to say thank you for watching. And with that, we're going to say Where the stop record button is. Hang on a minute, guys. Change my interface on here. Anyway, with that, Greg out.